Have you ever felt that your life is falling apart just when you thought you had everything under control? That strange feeling that the person that you have been for years no longer belongs to you, as if you were wearing a suit that has become too small for your soul. If you are in that uncomfortable space between what you were and what you could become, if you feel that your relationships, your work, even your own thoughts are alien to you, then you are experiencing something that Carl Jung understood better than anyone, the signs that you have come to close deep peace cycles of your existence. Jung, the psychologist who revolutionized our understanding of the human psyche, did not see these moments of rupture as crisis or failures, but as the clearest signs that your soul is ready to evolve. He understood that closing cycles is not simply leaving the past behind, but to cross a sacred process of death and psychological rebirth that few people really understand. In this content, we will explore the 6 unmistakable signals that you have reached that point of no return in your individuation process, where the transformation is no longer an option but a need of the soul. What you are going to discover here are not superficial tips of self-help, but the deep truths that Jung revealed about the functioning of the human psyche when he is ready to transcend his own limits. Prepare to recognize your own day in these words and, more importantly, to understand that what you have been feeling is not a crisis, but the most sacred call of your being towards total authenticity. You feel it, right? That strange feeling that is installed in your chest when you wake up in the morning. It is not sadness exactly, nor pure anxiety, but something deeper and disconcerting. It is as if your soul was whispering that the life you have built no longer belongs to you. Carl Jung called this the beginning of the individuation process, and contrary to what your rational mind tells you, it is not a fault of yours, it is yourself, that deepest totality of your being, empowering you towards an inevitable transformation. This internal discomfort is no accident. Jung understood that the human soul has a wisdom that transcends the understanding of the ego. When you feel that existential tiredness, that dissatisfaction with the achievements that previously motivated you, your psyche is pointing out that you have overcome a phase of your development. It is the time when your person, that social mask you have used to navigate the world, is beginning to feel like a prison. What you experience is not depression. It is the sacred call towards your true nature. Jung described this moment as the encounter with the threshold, that liminal space between what you were and what you can become. You feel emotionally naked, vulnerable, as if you were standing on the edge of an unknown ocean. Your ego, accustomed to control and predictability, resists this call. But your soul knows that this discomfort is the entrance price to a more authentic life. It is the invitation to abandon the comfort of the known, to embrace the mystery of who you really are. This initial awakening is painful because it implies the brutal recognition that the life you have lived so far is not enough. It is not that you have failed. It is that you have grown beyond the limits that once defined you. Jung taught us that the psyche always looks for all, and when a part of us is small, the unconscious sends increasingly intense signals until we pay attention. Your discomfort is, paradoxically, a psychic health signal. Is your soul claiming your right to express yourself fully? What comes after the call is perhaps the most brutal phase of awakening, the death of who you thought to be. Jung understood that true transformation cannot occur without this symbolic death of the ego. Your person, that identity carefully constructed over years, begins to crumble, and with it, all the scaffolding of relationships, beliefs, and habits that support your previous world. It is not that you are losing your reason, you are losing the illusion, and that hurts in a way that few people understand. This rupture manifests itself in unexpected ways. Suddenly, the conversations you enjoyed seem empty. The environments that you frequent feel toxic or superficial. People close to you can begin to feel like strangers, not because they have changed, but because you are seeing with new eyes. Jung called this enantiodromia, the transformation towards the opposites, where what once nourished you now exhausts you, and what you previously avoided begins to call your attention. The process of getting away from what is no longer useful is an act of radical honesty with yourself. It is recognizing that you have been living a life that, although comfortable or socially acceptable, does not reflect your deepest truth. Jung insisted that this recognition is the portal towards authenticity. When you start saying no to what does not resonate with your soul, you are creating space for your true being to emerge. But this no is accompanied by a silent and lonely mourning for the identity you are leaving behind. This mourning is sacred and necessary. You are saying goodbye not only of a version of yourself, but of all the expectations, dreams, and plans that were built on that previous identity. Jung understood that this process cannot be hurried or avoided. It is a necessary descent to the underworld of your psyche, where you must face the naked truth of who you are when all masks are removed. Only in this emotional nudity, you can begin to build a life that is truly yours, not an imitation of what others expect from you. Here we reach the heart of Jungian work, the encounter with your shadow. Jung revolutionized psychology by insisting that real evolution does not occur in comfort, but in the rupture, at the time you dare to look directly at those parts of yourself that you have denied, repressed, or projected in others. Your shadow is not your enemy. It is the non-integrated power deposit that you have been rejecting for fear of social judgment or self-play. When you finally dare to hug your envy, your anger, your insecurity, your selfishness, something magical happens. You stop being your victim and become your teacher. Shadow integration is perhaps the most liberating work you can do. Jung understood that what we reject in ourselves becomes our internal tyrant, generating auto-sabotage, toxic relationships, and a constant feeling of fighting against ourselves. But when you accept that you are able to feel jealous, to be manipulative, to have unacceptable thoughts, paradoxically, you free yourself from your control. You no longer need to project these qualities on others or spend energy repressing them. You simply recognize them as part of your humanity. This radical acceptance of your shadow completely transforms your relationships. When you no longer need to be perfect or good all the time, you can interact with others from a place of genuine authenticity. You can see the shadow in others without judging it because you have made peace with yours. Jung called this the transcendent function, the ability to maintain the tension between opposites without collapsing at one end or another. You become someone who can sustain the complexity of human experience without simplifying or moralizing it. The result of this integration work is a freedom that few people experience, the freedom to be completely yourself without apologies. You no longer live in constant surveillance of your unacceptable impulses because you have learned to channel them constructively. Your energy, before fragmented between keeping the mask and suppressing the shadow, now flows towards the authentic expression of your total being. Jung understood that this integration is not a final destination, but a continuous process of acceptance and refinement of all facets of your psyche. One of the deepest revelations of Jungian work is that the purpose is not something that you conquest or finds out there. It is something that is revealed when you create coherence between what you think, you feel, and do. Jung understood that self, that deepest totality of your being, has always known your purpose. But the ego, with its fears and conditioning, has been blocking its expression. When you finally abandon what does not use and integrate your shadow, create the internal conditions so that your authentic purpose emerges naturally. This purpose revealed does not resemble the objectives that the ego usually pursues. It is not external achievements, social recognition, or accumulation of resources. It is something more subtle and powerful, the coherent expression of your deepest nature in the world. Jung called this the individual process, the innate impulse of the psyche towards the totality and self-realization. When you live from this authentic center, your life becomes a silent but powerful statement of who you really are. The internal coherence generated by this revelation of the purpose is unmistakable. There is no conflict between your internal world and your external expression. Your decisions flow naturally from an authenticity center that does not need external validation. Jung understood that when you reach this state of alignment, your presence itself becomes your contribution to the world. You do not need to do something extraordinary to have an impact. Your simple, authentic existence inspires others to look for their own truth. Living with purpose from this Jungian perspective means becoming a channel for something bigger than your personal ego. Your life becomes an expression of the universal self, that archetypal wisdom that connects to all humanity. You are not living to impress others or meet external expectations. You are living to honor the deepest truth that lives in you. Jung knew that when a person reaches this level of authenticity, he automatically becomes a transformation agent for all around him, simply by the coherence of his being. The freedom born from the individual process is accompanied by a weight that many do not anticipate: the total responsibility of your decisions. Jung understood that when you free yourself from projections, excuses, and the need for external approval, you also free yourself from the comfort of blaming others for your life. This new freedom is raw, without anesthesia, because you can no longer hide behind roles, social or dynamic family expectations. You are completely responsible for creating a life that reflects your deepest truth. This responsibility can be overwhelming at the beginning. Your ego, accustomed to operating from known patterns, can feel vertigo in the vastness of possibilities that opens. Jung described this moment as the encounter with the weight of freedom, the understanding that you must now create your life from scratch, based only on your internal compass. There are no more external maps to follow. There are no more authorities to transfer the responsibility of your elections. You are the architect of your destiny, and that is both liberating and scary. The new identity that emerges from this process is radically different from the previous one. It is more honest, more raw, more real. Jung understood that this new way of being does not seek comfort, but authenticity. You no longer need emotional anesthesia to deal with life because you have developed the ability to be present with any experience, even pain. The difficulty becomes your teacher, not your enemy, because you have learned that each challenge is an opportunity to deepen yourself. Knowledge. The process of awakening, as Jung always emphasized, is not a unique event, but a continuous path. Your new identity is not fixed but fluid, always evolving, always deepening. You become a living example of what is possible when a person dares to live from his deepest truth. Your authenticity becomes a lighthouse for others who are starting their own individuation trip. Jung knew that when a person completes this internal work, he automatically becomes a collective healing agent, radiating a frequency of possibility that inspires others to seek their own authentic freedom. If you have come here, it is because something inside recognizes these signals as your own. Jung taught us that the process of closing cycles and evolving towards our totality is not an easy path, but it is the only path that leads to a truly authentic life. Each of these 6 signs, from that initial discomfort that whispers that something should change, until the total responsibility of creating a new identity from your deepest truth, they are gifts from your psyche, invitations to become who you really are. Remember that this process of individuation that Jung described is not linear or predictable. There will be days when you will feel that you go back, moments when the temptation to return to the comfort of the known will be overwhelming. But once your soul has tried the freedom of authenticity, there is no turning back. You are intended to live from your most true center, and that is both your challenge and your gift to the world. Now I want to listen to you. Which of these 6 signs resonates more deeply with you at this time? How is your own process of closing cycles manifest? Share your experience in comments. Your history not only matters, but it can be the lighthouse that another search engine needs to recognize its own transformation path. Remember that in this community of awake souls, each testimony is a piece of the collective puzzle of human evolution. If this content has touched something deep in you, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. This is a sacred space for deep thinkers, for those who are tired of living on the surface and seek to immerse themselves in the truths that really transform. Every week, we explore the mysteries of the human psyche through Jung's eyes and other great masters of consciousness. Until our next meeting, remember this: you are not broken, you are evolving. Your discomfort is sacred, your confusion is the prelude to clarity, and your courage to close cycles is the most revolutionary act that you can perform in a world that prefers comfort to truth. Trust your process, honor your day, and never forget that your authenticity is the most powerful gift you can offer to humanity.